I forgot. She was messing with him for a little bit.
So this is we can't remember 234 days, Dee Dee.
I know, and I didn't want to read anything because I
Found tears on your pillow, take my long away.
Dun, dun, dun. People of color in video games. Yeah, we took a long time to beat the game, and we were not expecting that ending whatsoever. Yeah, yo, thank you for the emotional ride, yo, word up. Yo, it's your man Technish, aka Gene from Cappsoffgaming, coming to you live while recording, and we are here again for this year's annual P.O.C. in Gaming, or People of Color in Gaming. I've been doing this series for a very long time. I believe this might be the 6th or 7th one. I don't know. I'll put something up to indicate that. But throughout the series, People of Color in Gaming, talked about a wide range of topics. I'm going to hit you with a little quick montage showing you a couple of them. But if you get a chance, please check out that playlist. This game was I actually had a person of color, and this is my man Matt Adam. Yo, at least the stats are right. Look into this option. Wow. Hear about these hairstyles. Look at this. There we go. There we go. You need the hair. Check locks. Yup, and we're back, yo. And I always love doing these People of Color in Gaming because, yo, I mean, I am black, alright, and I like gaming a lot. Yeah, I always like to talk about, you know, all things nerddom and how it applies to me, yo, and my identity, you know what I mean? Yo, representation matters. Why are we here today, alright? So this year's People of Color in Gaming, we are going to be focusing on the game South of Midnight. This game came out a while ago, but I really needed to give the time and the care when I wanted to do this review. I didn't want to lose anything or miss all the feels and everything like that. So we took a long time. Okay, actually 234 days until we beat the ending. Okay, but yeah. Very great game. The premise of the game is, just real quick synopsis, is that you're a character, your name is Hazel Flood, that's your last name, and you and your mother, you live in a part of Louisiana, it looks like, called Prospero, and there's a hurricane bearing down on the area, and you're in the process of evacuating. Your house ends up getting swept down the river along with your mom, and you are on an adventure pretty much to try to go save your mom because something in the storm grabbed her as well. So you're trying to figure that out. You have an auntie named Bunny. And she lives up on a hill where the hurricanes have yet to disturb her house. And you go to her for help, and then you go on to this wild journey where you find out you are a weaver, a individual that has supernatural powers to fix the grand tapestry, which is the life force energy that flows throughout the world. And I'm trying to make it as as clear as possible, but again, it's something that you gotta play. I'm bringing up this game because it brings up a lot of folklore, which is something that's really strong in the black community, no matter what part of the black community you're from, whether you're from here, from the United States, born here, fat family here, or even overseas and everything, all right, talking Africa, Caribbean islands, so on and so forth. And I really like the way that they used folklore to talk about some really important themes when it comes to not only just black people but black history as in total. All right, so we're gonna be focusing on just 3 specific moments or 3 sort of supernatural events that happened in the game, and then how do they relate in terms of folklore. How does it relate when it talks about the theme of black people or just black history? And how does the game tie it up and present it in a way that, you know, all of us can enjoy and everything like that? Because one of the biggest themes of the game is that this game isn't just about just beating levels and everything like that. They specifically state in the beginning of the game is about compassion and healing. That's the message that the game is trying to portray, and which is really cool because, you know, it is Black History Month, and there's a lot of caring compassion that needs to happen. You know what I mean? And we're gonna explore that through the game. But before you go, please like, sub, comment, and share. It really helps out with the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. Word up. So where did South of Midnight get most of its folklore? Well, most of its folklore stems from parts of Alabama and parts of Louisiana. Actually, the main setting for the game is a town called Prospero, which is in Louisiana, well, fictionally in Louisiana. And a lot of these tales talk about different things that, you know, you would experience living down south as a black person. So one of them would be just being out too late. All right, what would happen if we were being out too late? So they have actually folklore and stories about that, talking about just the dangers of the swamp, is what could happen when you're lost in the swamp. And then also just talking about what happens when you just hold on to a grudge, like certain things that we do as people. All right, they do a really clever way of showing this through different types of these folklore stories and monsters. In the story of Laurent turns into a Rougarou, which is a shape-shifting like demon or something like that. Well, shape-shifting, we want to say demon because Laurent's mad cool, but a shape-shifting being, all right, that is born out of pain and out of loss, okay? Which is important because Laurent's story is that he and his family were sharecroppers. And after emancipation happened in the South, where, you know, slavery was now illegal, all the slaves were free, landowners still had a bunch of land that needed to be tended to. So instead of having good hiring practices, you know, obviously that didn't happen. So what happened is that they had those same slaves work those farms again, but they were sharecroppers, as in that they had the land and they could produce from the land, but everything that they produced from the land pretty much went to the landowner. Even when they needed like basic food or medical supplies or anything like that, they had to get it from the owner's store. All the work and all the labor that they've done throughout the day, picking cotton or whatever other cash crop that's there, mostly all of their earnings would go back to the landowner because of all the goods and services that they had to produce, sharecropping. And in Laurent's case, his mother ended up getting really sick, and they couldn't afford the doctor that the sharecropper had on the property. So his mother ended up dying, and eventually, through the grief and pain, he becomes the Rougarou that we ended up having to fight in the game. But what's really significant about that is that to break the curse of the Rougarou, you have to hurt it to the point of near death so that the person can let go of the pain. I guess the pain of almost dying is greater than the pain that turned them into the Rougarou and stuff. So that's really significant too, in terms of like generational curses that black people carry and stuff like that. What are the things that we're doing to try to help heal and let that go so that we can, you know, flourish and be the best versions of what we can be, you know what I mean? In the level called Ayatunde's story, themes of family, what things that Black people had to do in the time after emancipation, just to try to make it and to survive, and some of the things that were still put in place. When we talk about the riverboats were something that was created during the early 1800s as a form of travel up and down the rivers and along the coast, but then also it was a place for commerce. A lot of business deals were being held on these riverboats, but one of the more lucrative attractions was having these casino nights on the riverboats, where you have a night of gambling, good food, and then other things that weren't really so in Itunde's story, Itunde is working on one of these boats, and she is suggested that she might be some type of like sex slave or a sex worker on the boat, but she ends up having a child, and she doesn't want her child to be subjugated to what she has been dealing with on these river boats. She knows of a community that's living within the swamp, so she ends up throwing her child overboard to hopefully get rescued by one of these, runaway slave communities, or just communities of people living in the swamp. But like a lot of stories of these Black families splitting up during these times, she ends up losing her family, and through her grief, she becomes a raging monster in not to laugh, but she becomes a raging monster in the swamp, and she goes back to the same riverboat to try to destroy it. And all through that time, her child is still there, but through the pain of losing their mom, ended up turning into a monster themselves, to the point where Itunde couldn't even recognize her child in her face. And I think that's a really important theme to cover, because during that, Black people's been wronged like up to this day, and sometimes we can get caught up in the anger. I've been in therapy a bunch of times. They call it post-slave mentality syndrome. It happens, and they manifest in different ways. And one of the main ways that we manifest it is through anger, like not understanding our feelings and talking about it as I'm just mad, when it could be just scared, like Itunde's child, just scared and frightened not to know where their mother's at, to the mother being scared and frightened by throwing her child overboard, not being able to find it, not be able to find their child, going through that anger, and how it can blind you to see all the good things that are supposed to be in your face and everything. So I think that's a really important theme that was covered by the Itunde story that we as Black people still deal with today. She just singing. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
Me next. Me and Mama next.
I think the story of Hug and Molly, which is I think one of my favorite stories, was just addressing the themes of being vigilant and aware. For the most part, the story of Hug and Molly is based on folklore from a town called Abbeville, Alabama. And basically, Hug and Molly, it was a 6-7 foot ghost of a woman, very pale skin, and she wore a black dress and a really big brimmed hat. And parents would tell their kids to not be out late, because what will happen is that Hug and Molly will show up from behind you, give you a big huge hug, scream in your ear, and then some of the accounts are she just disappears, but then some of the accounts is that she takes you away, Now, like I think the Hug and Molly story is a cautionary tale. Even though emancipation happened and there was, the slaves were free and everything like that, doesn't mean that there wasn't like wrong things that were happening to black people. The KKK was, and the Knights of Columbus was still in effect at that time, and they were going around actively, the KKK mainly, was actively going out and grabbing black people and lynching them, all right, burning them on crosses and stuff like that. So with the story of Hug and Molly, I think it was really significant because it was a cautionary tale for children, especially black children, not to be outside late because, of these other evils that were still present, even though, emancipation was declared. In summary, South of Midnight was an experience. I should have known when the game first started up. The game first starts up with, this is a game about compassion and healing. I remember when I did my, my Dirty 30 or my first impression video, that was one of the first things that I said introducing the game. And it still rings true. Like, it's a game about compassion and healing. The end of the game wasn't something we expected. I was expecting, and Dee Dee was expecting, for like a huge boss fight.
Brush. She was so tender-headed, I'd get cross with her. Now I'd give anything to brush her hair again.
Okay, your mans, yo. Okay, your mans.
I know who you are. It won't really be her.
You'll never be able to tell the difference, I promise.
I won't.
Not if you don't want to.
Oh, you're very kind.
For real? I like stuff like this. There's no beef?
Fine line between mercy and justice, ain't that right, Hazel Flood? You chose a hard road for yourself.
I know.
Oh, she's gonna bring the customer.
To that weird town.
It's the purgatory place.
Purgatory place.
Oh, she used false stitching to keep like the whole house together. Wow, that's wild. That's why it survived all those hurricanes. She used magic.
Are you hurt?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Oh, wow.
All the corruption
I
ate
got a
through
lot
the
to
house
tell
too.
I got time.
Oh, that's it? Wow. But we ended up didn't have that, which I appreciate with games like this because I like it when the developers turn something on its head and give you something that you're not expecting. It really becomes like a lasting impression on me, even so much as like I want to play the game again just to so I kind of catch that feeling. This is gonna be like one of my top 10 games of all time because of the way it made me feel when I walked away from it. Not only that it talked about like stuff that I've dealt with in my life, not just as a black person, but as a person in general growing up. But then also the representation does help as well, you know. I may not be African American, but I was born here. My parents are West Indian, but you know, living in America, no matter if you're African American or you're a person of color from overseas, you kind of experience the same stuff. So with that, I'm really happy that I had a chance to play South of Midnight all the way through. That's game number 3 for this year. But if you ever have a chance to play it, you should, because again, the game speaks to a lot more than what it gives off. That's about it, y'all. It's the annual People of Color's Video Game POC and Gaming. It's your man Technish, aka G from Cappsoffgaming. Before you go, please like, sub, comment, and share. It really helps out with the channel. Who knows, I might be somebody's favorite. Again, remember, your success is your own, so celebrate that, whatever shape, form that is. And as always, as for every Black History Month, okay? Not even just Black History Month, but like every day, all right? Remember, throw that fist up. Word up.